chosen one. Pause. Yes, you. Heaven has stopped everything around you because this moment carries weight. It is not random. It is not coincidence. It is divine intervention. Your miracle has been released, and heaven will not allow you to miss it. You have endured long nights where silence pressed heavy on your chest. You have prayed prayers that seemed to vanish into the air. You have wondered if God still hears you. But let this truth settle deep inside. Nothing has been wasted, and nothing has been overlooked. Heaven has been preparing the ground beneath your feet. Picture this: a ship sailing through thick fog. Where the horizon is invisible, the captain cannot see the shore. But the compass within keeps guiding. That has been you. You have not been wandering aimlessly. You have been led by an unseen hand. The fog is lifting now. The shore is closer than you think. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. How many battles have you carried on your own shoulders? How many times did you think it was all up to you? Yet heaven declares you are not abandoned on the battlefield. The commander of heaven's armies fights on your behalf. The same God who split the sea for Moses is clearing the path before you. Let me share a glimpse of one chosen one's journey. He faced years of silence. Promises spoken over his life seemed to crumble. Job opportunities slipped away. Friendships dissolved, and dreams felt like dust. But in the waiting, God was chiseling his character. Then suddenly, without warning, the very opportunity that matched his calling opened up. What once felt like rejection revealed itself as divine protection. That same pattern is echoing in your own story. Hear this clearly. The delays have not been denial. The silence has not been abandonment. You have been hidden like a precious jewel, kept safe until the right moment of unveiling. That moment is now. This is why you feel the stirring in your spirit as these words reach you. You are standing at the edge of breakthrough. The pressure you feel is not the end, it is the final push before birth. Do not mistake the shaking for destruction. It is construction. Heaven is building the foundation for your miracle. Now is your time to move with faith. Not with fear, not with hesitation, with faith. And here is how you anchor that faith today. Declare it. In the comments, type the number 888, a sign of new beginnings, of cycles completed and fresh chapters opening. This is not just a number, it is your prophetic act, your agreement with what heaven is releasing. And as you do, I invite you, like this message, share it with someone who is waiting for their own miracle, and subscribe to stay under this flow of heaven's voice, because this is not about hype. It is about destiny. Your miracle has already stepped into motion, and heaven will not let you miss it. Let this moment settle into your heart like fresh rain soaking dry soil. You don't have to strive. You don't have to chase. What belongs to you is already on its way. Heaven's timing is perfect, and your hands are about to receive what your prayers have carried for so long. Hold steady, for the next chapter is already opening. You have carried burdens few around you could see. The smile you offered to others often hid the storms inside. Many assumed you were fine because you kept moving. But deep down you knew the weight pressing on your spirit was heavy. Every sleepless night, every hidden tear, every whispered prayer in the dark has been counted by heaven. Nothing has slipped unnoticed. There are seasons when God allows hidden struggles to become the soil where faith is tested. It feels unfair. It feels lonely. You wonder why others walk freely while you are pressed down. But chosen one, what you carry is not punishment, it is preparation. Oil only flows when olives are crushed. Diamonds only shine after intense pressure. What you have endured is not evidence of weakness, but of your calling. Think of a violin string. Alone, it is fragile, almost insignificant. Yet when stretched tight across the instrument, it releases music that fills a room with beauty. Your trials have been the stretching of your soul. The tension you felt was not to destroy you, but to release a sound heaven placed within you. Others may hear just your story, but God hears your song. Many around you have misunderstood your silence. They did not know the depth of battles fought in your mind, the spiritual warfare that pressed against your peace. You have wrestled with thoughts that whispered, "You're not enough. You'll never make it." But here is the truth. You have already survived what was designed to break you. That is proof of who you are. According to what is revealed in the book of Psalms, chapter 55, verse 22, cast your burden on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. A chosen one named Elijah once sat beneath a broom tree, exhausted and ready to give up. He felt unseen, alone, and crushed under the weight of his calling. Yet heaven sent an angel with bread and water, reminding him he was not forgotten. In the same way, your hidden battles have been met with hidden provisions, moments where strength came from nowhere, where peace slipped into your heart when you least expected it. Those were not coincidences, they were the fingerprints of God. The burdens you carried in secret have been holy ground. They taught you compassion others cannot fake. They birthed in you a sensitivity to the broken, because you know what it feels like to break. And that is why your future cannot be ordinary. You will comfort others with the same comfort you once longed for. Look back for a moment, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Every valley of shadows was shaping endurance. Every unanswered prayer was making space for a greater answer, and every burden, though it bent you low, pressed roots deep into the soil of faith. You are stronger than you realize. This chapter is heaven's reminder. Your hidden battles were never wasted. Your burden is being exchanged for breakthrough. And the one who carried the cross has been carrying you all along. So breathe. Do not despise the weight you carried, because it was never meant to crush you, but to carve you. What once felt like a curse will soon be revealed as your crown. Heaven is not asking you to explain your scars, only to let them shine as proof that you survived and that God was faithful all the way through. There is a crown being shaped for you, though you may not see it yet. Every season of endurance, every moment you chose faith over fear, has been adding weight to that crown. You did not walk through fire for nothing. You did not endure rejection for nothing. Heaven has been molding you quietly, preparing you to carry authority without being crushed by it. Think of gold. Before it shines in the hands of a jeweler, it must first endure the fire. Heat exposes impurities. Flames reveal what is false. And only then does the true brilliance emerge. In the same way, your struggles have been the furnace, but what remains is incorruptible. You will come out carrying glory, not ashes. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. You see, crowns are not handed out for comfort. They are given to those who have walked through trial, yet did not give up. To those who chose obedience, even when the easier option was compromise. To those who endured misunderstanding, betrayal, and silence, yet still whispered, "I trust you, Lord." That is why your endurance has value. Let me share the glimpse of another chosen one. He lived years of being overlooked, always the last to be chosen, always doubted, even by those closest to him. But it was in that hidden place that God was sharpening him. One day, when the opportunity came, he was ready. His patience had built strength, and his humility had built wisdom. That crown was not sudden, it was forged through years of endurance. You might feel like no one notices your faithfulness, like your prayers go unanswered and your sacrifices unacknowledged. But listen, heaven has seen every act of obedience. The crown is not delayed, it is being refined. When the moment comes, it will fit perfectly on your head, because it was designed only for you. The crown of endurance is not about human applause. It is about the authority to walk in power and peace, carrying weight in the spiritual realm. When you enter a room, the atmosphere shifts, not because of who you are in the flesh, but because of who you are in the spirit. So here is your prophetic act for this moment. Go to the comments and write, "I wear my crown." Simple words, yet powerful, because every time you type them, you are rejecting shame, rejecting doubt, rejecting the lie that says you are unworthy. You are choosing to agree with heaven's perspective. You are declaring that the pain did not break you, it prepared you. And as you write it, let those words sink into your spirit. This is not about a future far away. The crown is already in your story, already resting on your life. Every battle has been proof. You were never running aimlessly. You were being trained to reign. Let your heart believe this truth. Your waiting has not been wasted, and your scars are now jewels in the crown you wear. The world may not see it yet, but heaven already does. You rise not empty-handed, but crowned in glory. There are moments in your story when rejection felt like the cruelest wound. Doors closed. Opportunities slipped away. People you trusted turned their backs, and your heart was left carrying the sting of not enough. You wondered if rejection meant failure, if it meant you had fallen out of favor. But heaven whispers differently. Rejection was never your ending. It was your redirection. A closed door is not always punishment. Sometimes it is the hand of God shielding you from what looked good, but was never meant to sustain you. There are paths that shine bright at first glance, but lead into darkness. There are people who smile outwardly, but would have pierced you deeply if they had remained close. Rejection has been heaven's way of keeping you hidden until the right door opens. The right alliance forms. The right moment unfolds. Think of a shepherd leading his flock to the sheep. Being pulled away from one field feels like loss. But the shepherd knows that field is barren, poisoned, or unsafe. He leads them instead toward green pastures they cannot yet see. You, too, have been guided by a shepherd who sees what lies beyond the bend. The places you thought you lost were never your dwelling place. They were detours avoided. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Hosea, chapter 2, verse 15. There I will give her back her vineyards. and will make the valley of Achor a door of hope. There she will respond, as in the days of her youth. What once felt like the valley of loss will soon reveal itself as the doorway of hope. The valley where you wept will become the place you sing again. Every no that cut you down is preparing the ground for the yes that cannot be stolen. Consider the story of Joseph, rejected by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and locked away in prison. At every stage, rejection seemed to define his life. Yet in truth, rejection was carrying him closer to the throne of Egypt, closer to the purpose God had written from the beginning. The betrayal of his brothers was the very path that brought him to the palace. In the same way, the rejections you have faced have been transportation, not termination. And maybe you've asked, why did they leave me? Why did they turn away? Why did the opportunity disappear when I needed it most? But what if the greater miracle was not in what you gained, but in what you were spared? Some connections would have drained you dry. Some doors would have trapped you in cycles of pain. God's mercy sometimes speaks loudest in silence, in the doors that never opened. Rejection then becomes a teacher. It strips away the illusion of control and calls you to deeper trust. It purifies your motives and clarifies your vision. It teaches you that you are not defined by who accepts you or who denies you, but by who chose you before the foundations of the earth. Look again at your past no's with fresh eyes. They are not scars of failure, they are markers of protection. They testify that God's hand has been over you all along, redirecting, rerouting, shielding. The very doors that shut in your face kept you from walking into destruction. This is the hidden mercy of rejection. It was not rejection at all. It was preservation. It was heaven saying, not this way, not this person, not this place. And though it hurt in the moment, you will one day look back with gratitude, knowing the rejection was your rescue. There is a reason why darkness has always seemed unsettled around you. Your very presence disrupts what is hidden, because you carry light. Even when you do not see it, others sense it. You have wondered why certain people pulled away. Why rooms grew tense when you entered. Why opposition rose suddenly without clear cause. It was never about you alone. It was about the light you carry. Light and darkness cannot coexist. When light steps in, shadows are exposed. Lies lose their power. And what is hidden must come to the surface. That is what happens when you walk into places. Your spirit unsettles the plans of the enemy because you remind darkness of its defeat. You may feel small in your own eyes, but to the kingdom of darkness, you are a threat. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 27, verse 1. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? Chosen one. This is why the battles have been so intense. The attacks are not proof of weakness, they are confirmation of light. Darkness never wastes energy on what does not threaten it. The very fact that resistance rises against you reveals the magnitude of the calling on your life. Think of a lighthouse standing against the storm. Waves crash violently against its base. Winds howl with fury. Rain beats relentlessly against its walls. Yet the lighthouse does not bow, does not break, does not go dark. It stands tall, its beam slicing through the night, guiding ships to safety. That is you. The storm around you has only proven the strength within you. And here is what makes this moment sacred. Light does not just exist for itself. It shines so that others can find their way. You are not called only to survive the storm. You are called to shine through it, to guide others by the flame God has placed inside you. Now, pause and imagine something with me. Imagine that every time you open your heart to support a message like this, whether by sharing it forward, by pressing like, or by choosing to subscribe and stay connected, you are not just clicking a button. You are striking a match in the dark. You are saying, "Let this light travel farther. Let it reach another soul still lost in the storm." No, this is not obligation. This is invitation, an act of beauty, like passing a torch in the night so the flame does not die. When you choose to like, when you choose to share, when you choose to subscribe, you are building a chain of light that stretches farther than you can see. Somewhere, someone waiting for hope may encounter that light because you carried it forward. So, let your decision today be more than digital. It can be prophetic, not for recognition, not for numbers, but for love, for the unseen souls who will find their way home because light refused to stay hidden. You are the reason darkness trembles, and you are also the reason others will find courage to rise. Keep shining. Keep standing. The light within you is not fragile, it is unquenchable. And remember this, every spark you release adds to a fire greater than yourself. A fire that no storm, no doubt, no shadow will ever be able to put out. There are moments in the Spirit when heaven calls you to respond, not with striving, not with endless questions, but with a simple act of faith. This is one of those moments. You have walked through seasons where words felt empty, where prayers felt unanswered. But now heaven is saying, "Agree with me and watch what unfolds." Uplift. Numbers in Scripture have always carried meaning. They are not empty symbols. They are markers of heaven's rhythm. 40 mark the days of wilderness. 3. The power of resurrection. 12. The authority of divine government. When God places a number before you, it is not superstition. It is a prophetic echo of His timing. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, second letter, chapter 1, verse 20. For no matter how many promises God has made, they are yes in Christ. And so through Him, the Amen is spoken by us to the glory of God. Oh, every promise of God over your life stands unshaken. But promises are activated when faith agrees with them. That agreement may come as a whisper, a step, or even a simple act like typing a number that carries heaven's meaning. It is not about the number itself, but about the posture of your heart when you release it. Let me take you into the story of one chosen one who waited for years to see God's promise fulfilled. She had prayed for restoration, for breakthrough, for healing, but silence seemed to stretch endlessly. Then one night, a word came to her heart, "Respond." Unsure of what it meant, she lifted her hands and simply said, "Yes." That act, small in the eyes of men, opened a flood of new beginnings. In weeks, everything shifted. She learned this truth. Heaven moves where there is agreement. Today, that same invitation is before you. Heaven is whispering, "Give me your yes." This is not a demand. It is an opportunity to align your heart with the timing of God. You are standing at the threshold of breakthrough, and this act of response is like opening the door. The number set before you now is 444. Why? Because 4 is the number of foundations: north, south, east, and west, the 4 corners of the earth, the 4 winds God commands. To see it tripled is to see your foundations strengthened, secured, and established in divine order. It is heaven's way of saying, what I am building in your life will not collapse. It will stand firm. No, when you type 444 in the comments, you are declaring that your life is being aligned with God's unshakable foundation. You are saying, I will not build on sand. I will build on the rock. And in that declaration, your heart is agreeing with heaven's architecture for your destiny. Think of it like planting a flag on holy ground. Others may pass by and see only the symbol, but you know that it marks ownership. It says, this land belongs to the King. By typing 444, you are planting your flag in the unseen realm, claiming what God has already spoken over your life. Do not underestimate the power of small responses in the kingdom. The smallest act of obedience carries eternal weight. The widow's mite was small, yet heaven recorded it as great. A shepherd boy's sling looked ordinary, yet it felled a giant. A single yes in your spirit today can unlock doors you have prayed about for years. So let your fingers release what your spirit already knows. The foundations are being rebuilt, secured, and blessed. The storms may rage, but you will not fall, for your life is being fastened to a rock that cannot be moved. There are shifts that cannot be explained by chance. A moment comes when what was long delayed suddenly moves forward. When doors, once rusted, shut swing wide. When what seemed impossible begins to breathe with life. That is what it means when heaven's timing collides with your obedience. For years, you may have walked with promises hanging above your head, yet feeling as though they never reached the ground. You prayed. You waited. You endured. And at times, you questioned if maybe you misunderstood. But heaven never forgot. Timing is not delay, it is design. God does not waste days, He aligns them. Think of the tides of the sea. They rise and fall, not by accident, but by the pull of the unseen moon. Ships must wait for the right tide before they can safely enter the harbor. If they attempt too soon, they run aground, too late, and they drift. Your life has been like that harbor, and heaven has been orchestrating the tide. Now the pull is shifting. The waters are rising. What was once out of reach is coming within your grasp. Scripture says in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1, there is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. This verse is not poetic filler. It is the architecture of your journey. The reason you did not receive certain things earlier was not because you were denied, but because the season was not yet ripe. A fruit picked too soon may look good but tastes bitter. God has been waiting for the fullness of time, when both you and the promise are ready to meet. Consider Abraham and Sarah. They carried a promise for decades. To human logic, the years looked wasted, their bodies weakening with age. But when the child finally came, it was not merely a birth, it was a testimony that heaven's word does not expire. The delay became the stage for the miracle. So it is with you. What looks late will soon prove perfect. You may have felt as though your obedience was small. Daily faithfulness, key choices, the unseen discipline of walking with God when no one was watching. Yet obedience, like drops of water, accumulates until it tips the scale. Heaven has been watching, measuring, and now the scale is shifting. The weight of your obedience has reached the tipping point, and breakthrough is being poured out. A chosen one once shared his story of waiting for restoration in his family. Years of silence, years of misunderstanding, years of doors closed between him and the people he loved. He continued to walk faithfully, though his heart was weary. Then one day, a single phone call broke the silence. In a moment, walls fell, and reconciliation began. He realized then that all his waiting had not been wasted. Heaven's timing had simply aligned with his persistence in obedience. This is what is unfolding in your life right now. You may not see the full picture yet, but the atmosphere around you is shifting. The ground beneath you is trembling, not in destruction, but in preparation. The seeds you planted in tears are pushing upward through the soil. The heavens are heavy with rain, and the clouds are about to break. Do not despise the waiting season. It was never empty. It was the womb of the miracle. And now, as timing and obedience collide, what you have carried in hope will be born into sight. You stand now at the edge of something vast. It feels both thrilling and terrifying, the sense that you are one step away from a breakthrough you cannot fully see. Your spirit knows it. The atmosphere around you whispers it. Yet the uncertainty of stepping forward presses against your chest. This is the place where many turn back. Standing at the threshold, they let fear speak louder than promise. They see the giants instead of the grapes, the walls instead of the gates. But chosen one, you are not called to turn back. You are called to step forward. Because the edge of breakthrough is not meant to paralyze you, it is meant to prepare you. Think of an eagle teaching its young to fly. The nest sits high upon the cliff. The eaglet has grown, feathers strong, wings ready, but it has never left the safety of the nest. Then comes the moment when the parent nudges it toward the edge. The eaglet hesitates, clinging in fear. Yet the parent knows the wings were built for this. And once it leaps, what once looked like death becomes flight. That is where you stand. The cliff is not your end. It is your beginning. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 19, verse 26, "With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." This scripture is not meant to be recited lightly. It is a doorway, a reminder that what looks impossible in your eyes is nothing in the hands of the Almighty. The walls before you are not barriers. They are invitations for God to display His power. Consider the Israelites at the edge of the Red Sea. Behind them, an army. Before them, impossible waters. Panic filled the air. But it was there, at the very edge, that God revealed His might. What looked like certain destruction became the stage for a miracle no one could deny. Your life mirrors that moment. You are pressed against impossible waters, but heaven is about to part them. You may feel the tremble of hesitation within. That is natural. Faith does not erase the shaking. It teaches you to step forward despite it. Breakthrough rarely looks safe. It often comes disguised as risk. But the risk you take in obedience is never in vain, because the hand of God is already stretched out ahead of you. Let me tell you of one chosen one who faced such a threshold. She had prayed for years for a door to open in her calling. Finally, the opportunity came, but it terrified her. Fear whispered, "You're not ready. You'll fail." Yet in her trembling, she remembered, God does not bring you this far to leave you. She stepped forward, voice shaking, heart racing, and what followed was greater than anything she had imagined. That trembling step became the turning point of her life. You too are standing before such a moment. The edge of breakthrough is rarely calm. It often feels like chaos. But within that chaos lies the miracle. The trembling is not a sign of weakness, but of transition. Heaven is shifting your season, and the edge you stand on is the doorway to what you prayed for. So breathe deep. Lift your eyes. The impossible is not your enemy. It is your stage. You are not being led to the edge to fall, but to step into what has been waiting all along. There is a weight in your voice that you may not even realize. When you speak, something shifts. When you declare truth, lies begin to unravel. When you whisper prayers, the unseen realm takes notice. Your voice carries more authority than you have been led to believe. Words are never empty. They are seeds. Some grow into trees of life, others into thorns of destruction. Heaven has entrusted you with the power of life and death in your tongue. That is why the enemy has tried so hard to silence you through fear, through rejection, through shame. If your voice did not matter, there would not have been such warfare against it. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 21, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Think of a trumpet in the hands of a watchman on the wall. When danger approaches, the sound pierces the air, warning the city. Without that trumpet, lives could be lost. In the same way, your voice has been set apart to carry sound in this generation. When you speak, even softly, it reverberates louder than you think. There was once a chosen one who believed her voice was too small to matter. She kept her prayers locked inside her chest, thinking God would not listen. But one day, in desperation, she cried out aloud, and something shifted. Peace swept in like a river. Doors opened that had been locked, and strength filled her bones. That day she learned, voicing faith releases power. You may have felt that silence was safer than risking misunderstanding, safer than facing rejection, safer than hoping again. But silence is not your calling. Your voice was never meant to be buried. It was meant to declare life where death lingers, to announce hope where despair reigns, to call forth what heaven has already written. So here is your prophetic response in this moment. Type, I release life. These 3 words are a declaration that your mouth will no longer echo fear, doubt, or despair. They are your agreement with heaven that your voice will be a fountain of encouragement, a weapon of truth, and a stream of healing. By writing, I release life, you are telling the unseen realm, I choose to align my words with the living God. I will not plant thorns, I will plant fruit. I will not stay silent, I will be a river of life to those around me. No, think of it as unlocking a reservoir. For too long, words of discouragement, whether from yourself or from others, have tried to dam the flow. Now, as you declare, I release life, the gates swing open and the current of God's Spirit flows through you, unhindered. This is not a ritual. It is not mechanical. It is an act of alignment. You are bringing your words into agreement with your identity as a chosen vessel, and heaven responds when your voice chooses life. Let this be the turning point. From this day forward, remember, when you pray aloud, you plant seeds in the Spirit. When you bless others, You break chains of heaviness when you declare truth. You invite heaven's order into the chaos. Your voice was given for more than conversation. It was given to shape eternity. There is something unmistakable about being marked by God. It is not a mark the world can see on your skin, but one heaven recognizes in your spirit. You have been sealed, not by ink, not by earthly approval, but by the living Spirit of God. That seal is your identity, your covering, your assurance that you are not ordinary. We find in the book of Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 13, when you believed, you were marked in him with a seal, the promised Holy Spirit. To be marked means you carry something that cannot be erased. You may walk through fire, but the flame cannot consume you. You may stand in storms, but the wind cannot uproot you. That seal whispers into your soul. You belong to him. Think of it like a signet ring pressed into hot wax. Once the imprint is made, it declares ownership, authority, and authenticity. You are that letter sealed, claimed, protected. The enemy may try to smear it, but the imprint of heaven cannot be removed. At times, you felt invisible, as though no one noticed your faithfulness. But invisibility in the eyes of people does not mean you are unseen by heaven. In fact, what looks hidden on earth often shines brightest in the spirit realm. You carry a glow that darkness cannot dim. Imagine walking through a crowded street at night. Most lights are dim, flickering, uncertain. Yet one lantern shines steady, its flame unbothered by the wind. People are drawn to it without even realizing why. That is you. Your life is a steady flame in a world of flickering lights. And here is the beauty. You are not asked to shine for yourself alone. You are asked to shine so others can find their way home. Your mark, your light, your identity is not meant to stay tucked away in silence. It was given to guide, to inspire, to awaken others who feel lost. Now, pause for a moment. Picture this. Every time you choose to engage with a word like this, whether by liking, by sharing, or by choosing to subscribe, you are not just interacting with content. You are lifting your lantern higher. You are saying, let this light reach farther. Let this flame be seen by more who need it. Now, think of it as a ripple in water. One drop creates circles that extend far beyond the point of impact. When you share, the ripple reaches a heart you may never meet. When you like, you are adding oil to the flame, so it burns brighter. When you subscribe, you are choosing to stay near the well, to draw again and again from the water that refreshes your soul. None of this is obligation. It is invitation. Like placing another stone on a sacred altar, you are choosing to participate in something bigger than yourself. You are saying, I will not keep this to myself. I will let this mark, this seal, this flame travel beyond me. Your choice is your own, free and unforced. But it carries eternal weight. And as you make it, remember, every small act of agreement with heaven multiplies far beyond what you can see. You are marked, sealed, chosen, and the world needs the flame you carry. Lift it high, keep it burning, and let it travel beyond you until night itself bows before the dawn. There are seasons when favor moves slowly, unfolding like dawn, creeping across the horizon. But there are also moments when favor accelerates, when what should take years is accomplished in days. When what felt impossible suddenly becomes effortless. You are entering such a season. Acceleration is not random. It is not luck. It is heaven's way of saying the time has come. What once crawled will begin to run. What once delayed will suddenly align. It is as if the gears of your life, long grinding in silence, are suddenly oiled and begin to turn swiftly. The ancient words recorded in the book of Amos, chapter 9, verse 13 declare, "The days are coming, says the Lord, when the plowman will overtake the reaper and the treader of grapes him who sows seed. The mountains will drip with sweet wine, and all the hills will flow with it." This picture is breathtaking, so much harvest that the act of reaping collides with the act of sowing. No gap, no delay, no waiting. Heaven is describing acceleration. What you plant and what you receive will begin to overlap, as if time itself bends to favor you. Think of a river that has been dammed for years. Behind the barrier, water builds, unseen but unstoppable. At last, when the dam breaks, the flow is not a trickle, it is a flood. That is what your prayers, tears, and obedience have been storing. Every act of faith has been collected, and now the barrier is breaking. What flows will be far more than what you imagined. Consider the story of Joshua leading Israel across the Jordan. For 40 years, the people wandered in circles. Yet when the time came, the river parted swiftly, and they crossed in a single moment what had felt impossible for a generation. 40 years of waiting, but only one day of breakthrough. The long wilderness did not cancel the promise, it magnified the miracle. This is how acceleration often feels. Years of stillness, then a sudden shift. Like a tree growing silently underground. Roots deepening, trunk strengthening, until suddenly, in one season, it bursts forth with branches heavy with fruit. You may not notice the growth until the fruit appears, but when it does, everyone can see it. One described her own season of acceleration. She had labored for years in obscurity, feeling as though every door stayed locked. Then suddenly, invitations, opportunities, and relationships aligned within weeks. What she thought would take decades was handed to her in a moment. Looking back, she realized the years were not wasted, they were preparation. When favor came, she had the strength to carry it. You must understand this. Acceleration is not simply speed. It is alignment. It is God redeeming lost time, folding wasted years into breakthrough moments. It is heaven saying, "I have not forgotten. Now watch me do quickly what once seemed far away." Perhaps you have feared that you are too late, that opportunities have passed, that your age, your mistakes, or your circumstances have stolen time from you. But the God who moves mountains also restores years. The years you thought wasted can be repurposed into momentum. The delays you hated can become the very reason for sudden overflow. Do not despise the waiting, for it has set the stage for this acceleration. And when it comes, it will not be fragile. It will be unstoppable. The plowman will indeed overtake the reaper, and the harvest will rush into your hands. There are times when heaven calls you not only to believe silently, but to act visibly, to step into alignment with what has already been spoken over your life. This is one of those moments. It is not about striving or forcing, it is about responding with a sign of faith. Numbers in the scriptures have never been mere mathematics. They have always carried prophetic weight. 3 days marked resurrection. 12 stones marked covenant. 7 circuits around Jericho marked completion before the walls fell. Numbers are not superstition, they are symbols of God's order. His timing. His promises manifesting in the visible world, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. The book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verse 10 declares, "Proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you is to return to your family property and to your own clan." The word jubilee speaks of restoration, of debts cancelled, of freedom released, of land and inheritance returned. It is the season where God says, "What was lost shall be restored. What was bound shall be set free." And for you, chosen one, this is the season. Heaven is announcing a personal jubilee, a divine restoration that no hand can prevent. Think of a bell tower striking in the distance. At first the sound is faint, but as the echoes roll through the air, people across valleys and towns begin to hear it. Jubilee, is that sound a proclamation that freedom has come, that chains must fall, that joy must rise? And you are not simply hearing the sound from afar, you are stepping into it. Now, here is how you anchor your faith today. Declare your agreement with heaven by typing 222 in the comments. Why this number? Because 2 is the number of covenant, of partnership, of divine agreement. When it is tripled, it becomes heaven's reminder that God's promises are established, confirmed, and sealed over your life. By typing 222, you are saying, "I step into agreement with the covenant of God. I believe His restoration is for me. I declare jubilee over my life." These are not just digits, they are a prophetic act, a visible sign in faith that heaven sees and honors. Think of it as signing a sacred contract with your own hand. Heaven has already written the terms: freedom, restoration, and joy. By releasing 222, you are placing your name on that contract, declaring, "This promise is mine." Then 3. This act may feel small, but in the kingdom, small responses open great doors. As you type 222, you are aligning yourself with the covenant that cannot be broken, the agreement God Himself has initiated with you. It is like placing your seal on the scroll of promises already prepared in your name. So, let the proclamation be made. Liberty is here. Restoration is here. Jubilee is here. You are not empty-handed. You are not abandoned. You are stepping into the covenant that heaven already declared, and your response seals it. And when you rise tomorrow, remember that covenant is not just a word, but a covering. It walks with you into your work, into your family, into your hidden struggles. It whispers that you are never alone, that God's hand remains on you, and that the jubilee He declared is not a passing moment, but the unfolding of a new chapter written just for you. There are times in your journey when it feels as though the weight of opposition has pressed too long, when the enemy's schemes seem to have the final word. Yet, what you must understand is that God specializes in reversals. What was intended to harm you becomes the very material God uses to raise you. The script that darkness tried to write over your life is being torn apart, and heaven is authoring a new chapter. The ancient words in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28 remind us, And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. All. This verse does not mean all things are good, but that all things are woven together by the Master's hand for your ultimate good. Pain, betrayal, loss, they are threads. Alone, they seem meaningless, even cruel, but in the tapestry of God's design, they form patterns of redemption and glory. Think of a potter at the wheel. The clay resists, collapses, even cracks under pressure. Yet the potter does not discard it. He wets it, reshapes it, and spins it again until the form is right. What looked like ruin becomes refined, because the potter never lost sight of what he was shaping. In the same way, your broken pieces are not wasted. They are being reshaped into something stronger, more beautiful, more enduring. Consider Joseph once more, a man who knew rejection, betrayal, and false accusation. What his brothers meant for destruction, God used as transportation to the palace. Years of injustice became the very platform for deliverance, not just for him, but for nations. His story was a divine reversal. And just as surely, yours carries the same signature of heaven. Perhaps your own life has carried chapters of betrayal or disappointment, relationships that ended suddenly, jobs that vanished, doors that slammed shut. At the time, the pain cut deep, and you wondered if perhaps the enemy had won. Yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still carrying the imprint of heaven. That is proof enough that the story did not end in defeat. The author is still writing. There was once a chosen one who carried the shame of past mistakes. Every time she tried to rise, whispers of failure followed her. But she learned this truth. What was meant to chain her in regret became the very testimony that unlocked freedom for others. The place of her greatest weakness became the platform of her greatest strength. That is the rhythm of divine reversal. Think also of the cross. To the watching world, it looked like the final blow, the crushing of hope, the silencing of a movement. Yet, in that darkest hour, heaven was staging the greatest reversal in history. Death was undone, sin was shattered, and eternity opened. If the cross itself was not the end, then neither is your present struggle. Reversal does not erase the past, it redeems it. The scars remain, but they shine as proof that what once wounded now witnesses to God's power. Your tears are bottled, your pain remembered, and none of it is wasted. Lift your eyes to see the bigger picture. What you thought was your undoing is becoming your unveiling. What you feared was permanent is becoming the very evidence of God's mercy. The story is not over. It is turning. An unbreakable covenant holds you, stronger than any promise made by human lips. Unlike shifting contracts or fragile agreements in this world, God's covenant is eternal. It does not waver with circumstances, nor does it collapse under the weight of your weakness. It stands, steady and sure, anchored in his unchanging nature. The Word of God declares in the book of Hebrews, chapter 6, verse 19, "We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure." And that anchor is covenant. It ties you not to the surface winds of emotion or the unstable ground of circumstance, but to the unshakable faithfulness of God. Even when storms rage and waves crash, the anchor holds. Think of the rainbow after the flood. When Noah stepped out of the ark, the world smelled of destruction. Yet God stretched a bow across the sky as his covenant sign. Never again would the waters cover the earth. That bow was more than color. It was God's vow etched across creation. Every rainbow since whispers of his unbreakable word. The covenant that holds you is even greater. It was not sealed with ink on parchment, nor with stone carved by human hands. It was sealed with the blood of Christ. That blood does not fade, does not weaken, and does not expire. It is the eternal signature of heaven, declaring, "You are mine, and nothing can snatch you away." No, many promises spoken by men are conditional, depending on mood, memory, or convenience. But God's covenant is not built on your performance. It is anchored in his character. Even when you falter, the covenant remains. Even when you doubt, the covenant stands. Your failures do not cancel his faithfulness. Think of Abraham. He was promised descendants as numerous as the stars. Yet he stumbled, doubted, and even laughed at the impossibility of it all. Still, God's covenant remained, unfolding across generations. Today, that same covenant stretches through history to embrace you. You are grafted into promises spoken thousands of years ago, promises that still breathe life. There was once a chosen one who thought she had wandered too far from God's plan. Mistakes piled up. Regret shadowed her heart, and she wondered if covenant had an expiration date. But as she turned back in surrender, she discovered this truth. Covenant is not erased by detours. It waits patiently, steady like a compass, always pointing her home. Covenant is also protection. You may not realize how many times danger was near, how many traps were laid, how many schemes formed against you. Yet the covenant covered you like a shield, deflecting arrows you never saw. What felt like coincidence was covenant in action, guarding you even in silence. Picture a fortress built on a high rock. Storms crash, enemies advance, but the fortress does not yield. That is what God's covenant is for you, an unbreachable refuge. To step inside is to step into safety, not because of who you are, but because of who he is. Let this settle deep in your heart. You are not clinging to God with fragile fingers. He is holding you with an unbreakable grip. The covenant cannot fracture, cannot fade, cannot fail. So stand, not in fear of losing your place, but in the certainty that you are sealed. The covenant is not a fragile thread, but an eternal anchor. And as long as heaven endures, so does his promise over your life. There comes a moment when the call is no longer to remain hidden, but to rise higher, to step into the throne prepared for you, not in pride, but in purpose. You were not chosen to simply survive, you were chosen to reign, to walk in the authority heaven has already placed upon your shoulders. As the apostle reminds us in his letter to the Philippians, chapter 3, verse 14, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. This is not a prize handed cheaply. It is not the applause of men or the comfort of ease. It is the crown placed upon those who refuse to quit, who chose obedience even in valleys, who stood when all else urged them to bow. That crown is yours, and heaven is urging you to rise into it. Think of a mountain peak hidden in the clouds. Climbers labor upward, lungs burning, legs trembling, often tempted to turn back. Yet those who endure find themselves breaking through the mist into radiant sunlight, standing where few have stood, seeing what few have seen. That is the invitation being whispered over you. The climb has been hard, but the summit is near, and the view awaiting you is worth every step. You may feel unqualified. You may hear whispers of doubt telling you that you cannot rise. But remember, eagles are not trained in cages. They are born for the sky. And the sky is calling you. The higher you go, the freer you become. Now, pause with me and picture something. Imagine a torch being passed through generations. Each hand that carries it lifts it a little higher, until its flame can be seen across valleys and oceans. That torch is in your hands now, and each act of engagement, each time you choose to like, each time you share, each time you decide to subscribe, is as though you are lifting the flame higher. It is not about mechanics. It is about saying, "Let this light burn beyond me." No, and there is more. I invite you also to leave a comment, not as obligation, but as prophecy. Write the words, "I rise higher." Be doing so. You are not merely adding text to a page. You are carving a declaration into your own spirit. You are saying, "I will not stay low. I will not shrink back. I choose the mountain. I choose the crown. I choose to rise." Line. See it this way. Liking is adding oil to the flame, making it burn brighter. Sharing is opening a window in a darkened house so the light spills out into the street. Subscribing is choosing to remain close to the well, so you never run dry. And commenting, "I rise higher," is like setting your feet firmly on the mountain path, no longer hesitating, but stepping upward with resolve. None of this is forced. It is your choice. But when you choose, you are joining something eternal, the lifting of light in a world that desperately needs it. Each action is not about algorithms or numbers. It is about creating a living testimony that says, "I am not content to remain hidden. I was born to carry this flame higher." Manda, so rise. Lift the torch. Let the world see the light you carry, not for your glory, but for the glory of the one who chose you. The throne is waiting, the crown is ready, and heaven is watching as you take your place. There is a sound in heaven that few pause to imagine, the sound of celebration. Angels, radiant and countless, rejoicing not over riches, not over crowns of gold, but over one life that steps into alignment with destiny. That sound is echoing for you. The halls of heaven are not silent. They are alive with joy as you embrace the new season prepared for you. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verse 10, "I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." If heaven erupts in song for one soul turning home, how much more for a chosen one stepping into the fullness of their calling? The celebration is not distant. It is near, surrounding you like unseen music, resounding through realms you cannot see but your spirit can sense. Think of a grand banquet being prepared, tables laid with abundance, lamps glowing warmly, doors flung wide to welcome the long-expected guest. That is the picture of heaven as you walk into your season, not a reluctant welcome, but a joyful one. You are not tolerated, you are celebrated. The joy of heaven is not a vague feeling. It is like the roar of a stadium when victory is declared, like the crescendo of an orchestra reaching its peak. like a river bursting its banks in spring. It is the overflow of God's delight in you. Consider the parable of the prodigal son. He returned home, covered in dust and shame, expecting rejection. Instead, the father ran to him, embraced him, clothed him with new garments, and called for a feast. That story is more than forgiveness. It is celebration. And that same embrace, that same feast, that same song is being written over your life. There was once a chosen one who thought her life too ordinary to matter. She worked quietly, served faithfully, often unnoticed by those around her. But one day, during a moment of prayer, she sensed the Spirit whisper, "Heaven sees you. Heaven rejoices in you." Tears streamed down her face as she realized her faith had never been invisible. In heaven, it had always been precious. You may not always hear the celebration, but it surrounds you. Every step of obedience is met with heaven's applause. Every time you choose faith over fear, angels lean in with joy. Every time you forgive, every time you serve, every time you press on when no one is watching, heaven's song swells Lude. Think of a hidden choir singing in the distance, their voices carried on the wind, at first faint, then rising, then filling the air until you cannot ignore it. That is the sound of angels when you align with your calling. It is not sentimental, it is powerful. The celebration of heaven strengthens, sustains, and confirms your journey. Do not mistake loneliness on earth for absence in heaven. Even when you feel overlooked, you are the focus of divine delight. The universe may seem vast and indifferent, yet the Creator of galaxies leans close, smiling at your steps. The angels themselves rejoice because they see what you cannot yet see, the crown awaiting, the destiny unfolding, the glory being revealed. So let this truth carry you. You are not walking into this season quietly. You are walking in accompanied by the chorus of heaven. The celebration has already begun, and its echo will carry you forward into the fullness of your calling. There is a moment in every story where the journey converges into clarity. You have walked through valleys and wilderness, carried burdens unseen, endured rejection, pressed forward in trembling obedience, and now you stand crowned with unstoppable glory. This is not exaggeration, not a poetic flourish. It is the reality of one who has been marked by God. The ancient words in the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 3, verse 18 proclaim, "And we all, who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory, are being transformed into His image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit." Glory is not simply a future inheritance, it is a present transformation. It is the radiance that clings to you when you have walked with God through fire and survived. It is the shine of resilience, the weight of wisdom, the authority of scars turned into testimonies. You do not wear this glory as borrowed clothing. It has become part of your very being. Think of Moses descending from the mountain after speaking with God. His face shone so brightly that the people could not look at him directly. That was not Moses trying to impress. It was heaven imprinting its brilliance upon him. You too are walking down from your mountain, carrying a light you did not manufacture, a light the world cannot deny. This unstoppable glory is not fragile. It does not dim because of others' opinions. It does not shrink when faced with opposition. It flows from an eternal source, unshaken by the temporary storms of life. Glory is not about applause, it is about reflection. You are reflecting the one who called you, and nothing can extinguish that light. Consider the imagery of a sunrise. The night fights to linger. Shadows stretch long, yet the horizon glows with unstoppable fire. Slowly, then suddenly, light bursts forth, scattering darkness in every direction. That is your story. Darkness tried to linger, but it cannot withstand the dawn that now rises within you. There was once a chosen one who described her journey through years of silence, trial, and despair. She thought she had been buried, forgotten, lost. Yet when her breakthrough came, it was as though her life ignited. Her voice, once trembling, carried authority. Her presence, once overlooked, became undeniable. She realized then that glory is not something earned, it is something received. Something heaven bestows when you refuse to quit. Your own crown of glory may not be seen with earthly eyes, but it is real. It is the unseen mantle resting on your shoulders, the spiritual authority you now carry. When you speak, atmospheres shift. When you walk, doors open. When you stand, darkness trembles, not because of who you are alone, but because of who walks with you. Think of a torch blazing in the night. Others gather around it, warmed and guided by its flame. That is you now, not only shining for yourself, but for others who need courage. Your glory is not for pride, it is for purpose. It is the evidence that God finishes what he begins, that those he crowns are also those he carries. So walk boldly into this season, not timidly, not apologetically, but with the quiet confidence of one who knows heaven has sealed their path. The journey has shaped you. The trials have refined you, and now the crown rests securely. You are crowned with unstoppable glory, and nothing in earth or hell can take it away. You have reached the end of this journey. Yet what lies before you is only the beginning. These words were not random. They were a mirror to remind you of who you truly are. Chosen, sealed, carried, and now crowned. The battles you endured were not wasted. The tears you cried were not ignored. Heaven has taken every moment and woven it into the garment of glory now resting on your life. The Word of God declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." You stand now in that light, not just to keep it within, but to let it shine. And here is the beauty. Every time you respond, whether by liking, by sharing, by choosing to subscribe, or by leaving a comment, you are not performing a ritual. You are lifting your light higher, letting it travel farther, letting others who sit in silence feel the warmth you now carry. So let your response be prophetic. When you like, it is as though you are saying, "I agree with heaven's seal over my life." When you share, you are placing a lamp in another's house, guiding them out of the dark. When you subscribe, you are choosing to remain close to the well, returning again and again to be refreshed. And when you comment, you are engraving your own declaration into the story. This word is mine. I walk in it. And none of this is obligation, it is invitation. A sacred way of saying, I choose to let this flame live beyond me. And as you do, heaven itself smiles. For the light within you is too radiant to remain hidden. Your miracle has come, and heaven will not let you miss it.